Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. And well, we got the day started already here, Acacia, as this morning at 11 a.m. was the Florida Derby post position draw. Of course, we've got the full post position draw and field slate coming up in just a few moments, but like I said, everything's getting ramped up here and a lot of excitement getting to Florida Derby weekend.
It is. That will be this Saturday, April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. We have the Florida Derby right here. Of course, a big final prep for the Kentucky Derby. Those points on the line. We'll have a field of 11 slated for the Florida Derby. And don't forget, we've been at 12:35 for the past couple of weeks, but Florida Derby Day post time will be 12 noon. So don't be late because it will be a stacked card from top to finish. Lots of really great other stakes and even some undercard races as well.
And you can come out here bright and early, as well as we do have the breakfast that happens every Saturday morning. That does start at 8 a.m. though on Florida Derby Day, so that'll be excited, getting things kicked off in good order. But we wanted to show you here the field of 11 going postward for this year's expressbet.com Florida Derby, and there you can see it, starting with the inside horse, the number 1, State of Honor, coming out of a second place performance in the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby behind Taprit. Taprit, of course, being pointed towards the bluegrass.
And we do have Talk Logistics 30-1 in second for trainer Eddie Plisa, his most recent race, 4th in the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth.
And Charlie the Greek there is at odds of 50-1, but did finish 4th behind the Chathamint last time out against Starter Allowance Company. As we get to the number 4, Always Dreaming, as a big shot in here. He's actually 3rd choice on the morning line.
The only one with a win at the distance, a couple in here for Todd Pletcher. And then we get to a long shot in the number 5, Keeney Entos in here. He is coming off of a performance in the Fountain of Youth as well, so trying to make an impact off of that poor showing last time out.
Coleman Rocky at 30-1, coming off of a 3rd place performance in the slop here at Gulfstream Park. And Unbridled Holiday, also 30-1 here. He was actually 3rd behind Always Dreaming, who wired the field that day.
He was, and he's got some distance at his name as well as we get on to Impressive Edge, 12-1 on the morning line for trainer Dale Romans. Distance is the question for this one, stretching out to 2 turns for the first time after an explosive allowance victory last time out.
Distance is the question, as the farthest he's ever been is 7 furlongs, where he did have that explosive victory last time out. And the number 9 Battalion Runner, coming out of a victory against Beasley, and of course beating Looking for 8, who did run in the Fountain of Youth. But Battalion Runner is kind of a backup plan, according to trainer Todd Pletcher, as he does send out Always Dreaming as well. And of course we have 3 Rules in here, who figures to be part of the pace scenario.
He will. He comes out of a really hard fought 3rd in the Fountain of Youth last time out. And then we have Fountain of Youth winner, the morning line favorite at 9-5, Gunavera on the far outside in post 11. But Antonio Sano just saying upstairs to Ron Nicoletti, he doesn't think that'll be a problem.
It shouldn't be that big of an issue, Acacia, as he is kind of a closer in here, and it figures that there's going to be a decent amount of pace in here as well. And talking about the field overall, we have 3 Rules who clearly will be on the lead. He is a very fast horse.
He probably will be sent 3 Rules. It does look like he's going to be the one to go. And we did actually just hear John Velasquez saying that he plans to send as well with Always Dreaming. He's in post number 4. Always Dreaming, a really interesting horse because he does have the win at the distance. And he's actually garnered a lot of recent interest, getting Sienna Farm and West Point Thoroughbreds buying in just recently. And he is one of actually 5 potential contenders for trainer Todd Pletcher. He does have these 2 in here. He also has Malagasy potentially going to the Arkansas Derby and Taprit potentially going to the Bluegrass. So really interesting to see how Todd Pletcher is going to handle this. He is just 1 for 45 in the Derby record.
Thank you for covering us there, Acacia, for a couple of seconds. But looking at it, okay, so 3 Rules. This is my initial reaction to the field, the post-draw here. 3 Rules, of course, he's got speed from the outside. He's going to have to be used. Always Dreaming, Johnny Velasquez already said he's going to be leaving the gate pretty quickly. And then we have State of Honor, who's actually getting the blinkers off for the Florida Derby. So of all these horses, I actually think Always Dreaming and State of Honor might have the two best post positions, given their running style. Gunnevera doesn't really affect him, as we said. He is a closer. And looking at those three, I really do think that Always Dreaming and State of Honor have drawn really good post positions.
And sometimes it really does come down to the post draw, and unfortunately for three rolls, probably will have to be pushed from the outside. And it was interesting to hear what Javier Castellano had to say about the Fountain of Youth, about Gunnevera, because he likes to make that one run. He is taking a more patient approach with that horse, which is really what he needs to do. Javier Castellano looking for his first Kentucky Derby win as well.
And always post 11 kind of difficult, but with the question marks regarding Battalion Runner, he will be probably breaking out of post 10 here, but that is the field of 11 that will go postward for the expressspec.com Florida Derby. But we wanted to take a moment and show you some words from trainer Todd Pletcher, who will be sending out both Battalion Runner and Always Dreaming. But as we said, Battalion Runner, kind of a backup plan if Always Dreaming doesn't go postward. Here's what he had to say about Always Dreaming.
Yeah, he's not only been impressive as his last couple of starts, but he's been training extremely well. We're very pleased with the way he's coming up to it, and we're optimistic and hoping for a big effort.
He's a horse that's got a lot of attention lately, had some new partners buy in.
Yes, he's had a Sienna Farm and West Point Thoroughbreds bought a part of him after his allowance win here, and it looks like good timing on their part. Well, we gave him a little bit of time after we first got him in at Saratoga. He went down to Kruppe's farm in Ocala, freshened him up a little bit. He's come into us, and he's been perfect all along. We've kind of taken a conservative route with him by design. We wanted to stretch him out and run him 2 turns, so we took him to Tampa for a pretty easy maiden win. And then we thought about the Fountain of Youth, but we felt like maybe a more gradual progression would make more sense. So we got the 1 1/8 allowance race under his belt and handled that really well. So I feel like he's coming into the Florida Derby as good as we could have him. Definitely tougher competition, some really good experienced horses like Gunnevera, so I think, we're going to find out where we are with him, but we're really pleased with the way he's coming into it.
And of course the question does come up, looking forward to the Kentucky Derby. Is that on the table?
We hope so. He needs some points, he needs to run well in the Florida Derby, but we're hoping that this is a step towards that.
And when you are looking for a Derby horse, what are some qualities you like to see?
Well, the main thing is you want to see a horse that you think will get the distance, and based on the way he handled the 1 1/8, the way he finished the 1 1/8, and the way he galloped out after the wire, we're pretty optimistic that he'll be able to get the trip.
And that's trainer Todd Pletcher in regards to Always Dreaming. And it's funny he said that, they've really handled him with care, so to speak. They've been placing him in the right positions, but kind of auspiciously placed. And then 2 starts in his last start, he finally stretched out to the 1 1/8. But I think the main question would be, that day, yes, he stretched out. He won going wire to wire. He was uncontested. It wasn't the strongest of fields, and the overall time was very slow. That day, though, the track, especially for race 1, was pretty deep. So he goes from having a conservative approach with this horse's campaign to just throwing him in the Florida Derby. So that just speaks confidence for this horse.
It really does, and it's interesting. And asking about the time off, he had a layoff from August to January, came back, and he actually broke his maiden in special weight company at Tampa, just blowing away the field there, and then he really blew away the field last time out. But he's kind of done everything that he needs experience-wise, except face that tough competition that some of the other horses in this field have faced. Even Todd mentioning Gunnevera and the likes of the company that he's been keeping lately. So that is going to be the biggest challenge for Always Dreaming, but it looks like he's got a few other feathers in his cap that'll help him in his first graded stakes try.
A very talented horse indeed, and I really think Gunnevera might be sitting on a huge race, just looking at his most recent work tab and just how really he's matured in the past couple of starts. We saw him paddock schooling earlier, actually last week, and he did not turn a hair, kind of different to his reaction both in the Holy Bull and the Fountain of Youth in the afternoon. So that is the talk about the Florida Derby. We're getting very excited, but we have a great card on tap here today, so we're going to step aside for a commercial break. When we come back, we'll tackle the 20-cent Rainbow 6 and the Late Pick 5 and talk about all of our featured wagers this afternoon.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve. Give bettors the information they need to win and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Saturday, April 1st, witness the country's best 3-year-olds face off in the Grade 1 ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. An epic day of thoroughbred racing. The crowning event of the championship meet. Over $2.5 million on the line. It all comes down to this. The Grade 1 ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. Only at Gulfstream Park. Derby champions start here. Saturday, April 1st, the ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. First race, 12 p.m. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. As we just mentioned, the full field is set here for the ExpressBet.com Florida Derby coming up this Saturday. But we've got a great racing card on tap today. And I guess the news and noteworthy today is definitely the Pick 6 carryover, which we'll get to in a moment. But we wanted to first show you all of our featured wagers today, starting with today's opener. That does kick off the dollar rolling Super High 5. Race 1 also starts the 50-cent early Pick 5. Acacia will show you a ticket for that sequence. Moving along to the 6th race, that does kick off the 20-cent Rainbow 6. We've got a carryover of $1.35 million today, and I thought it was a manageable sequence. I will show you my take on that sequence in just a moment. Race 7 does also kick off the 50-cent late Pick 5. We will walk you through that as well. But as of now, it's sunny, it's warm, it's beautiful here in South Florida. We are fast and firm on the turf, and 12:35 p.m. first post. So before we get into the Pick 6, we wanted to just take you through quickly for Acacia's early Pick 5 ticket.
Pick 6 today does start in race number 6, and we'll start there, but we'll give you a look at races 1 through 5 for my ticket. I'm going to spread in the first race, just using 2 horses in the second, 3 in the third, and my single today will come with 1 Tough Angel in the 4th race, trying to keep things affordable. 3 deep in the 5th as well. That'll be $36 for me to start off today.
I like it. Again, that's races 1 through 5. That is the early Pick 5. We are going to start handicapping the card from race 6 and onward. Of course, that does start the 20-cent Rainbow 6. So turn your programs to the 6th race. This starts the $1.3 million carryover in the Pick 6. Here is my take on today's sequence. $57.60. Going to be using 3 horses to start things off with the 3, 4, 7. I thought race 7 you could have some coverage in. Also using 3 horses in the 8th race, followed up by 2, by 2, by 2. And we did have some tricky scratches throughout today, so we'll try to talk about that. I thought some of the scratches actually affected the big picture pace scenario of some of these races, but we started off with this maiden 12,500 event at 6 furlongs onto the main track. And Acacia, do I have the right 3 to start things off?
I think you do. I didn't use the 3, but I think we have our exacta flip-flopped in here. So I agree with you, maybe wanting some coverage a little bit later on. I didn't find a single in the late Pick 5 either, but it will be tricky to try and get that Rainbow 6, but certainly worth a stab. But I guess the place to start probably is the number 7 Irish Star, just based on class. And we'll show a quick stat on Eddie Keneally going from turf to dirt in maiden claiming. Looking at sprint races, he's very strong with not the biggest sample size, but 36% wins, 79% in the money, 11 out of 14, and a positive ROI of 219. This filly also gets the blinkers on, so I know it's kind of like a lot of things at once, but I think that she did show a little bit of promise in her first debut. This is actually her first time on a fast main track, though.
And the one thing that kind of strikes me at initial reaction to this race, it just kind of looks like the pace will be murky. We have the 2 Poda, who obviously her MO is usually to go to the lead, although she didn't do that last time out. Citrus Storm, she showed a little bit of speed first time out, 5/8 on the turf, but other than that, it's kind of really tricky who else will show speed. So I did land on the number 4, the Blonde. I've been hoping that they stretch her out in distance, because it just looks like she wants that. And not saying she gets a lot more distance, she's just getting from 5.5 to 6 furlongs here today. But I do think that we have a suspect pace, which will also help her.
I totally agree with you with that. I was hoping my top selection getting to the fast main track and the class relief will help her to be a bit more forwardly placed, but not an easy way to start the Rainbow Six.
It surely isn't, as I used 3 horses in that leg of the sequence. We turn the page to the 7th race, the 62.59 winners of 2 lifetime claiming event. And this does kick off the 50-cent late pick 5. Acacia, you said you didn't have a single. Let's see how much your ticket is.
I did not. It'll be $54 for me today. Still trying to keep it kind of affordable. I just used 2 horses to start things off, which I'm kind of nervous about, but I'll know right off the bat if I get out alive out of this first leg. So going 2 by 2 by 3, 3, and 3, $54 for me there.
Okay, I actually used 4 horses in here. I did use Siki in the pick 6, who is now a scratch, so backing myself up with the number 2 Dero D, who I don't really think wants to go 7 furlongs. I thought that that was kind of a question mark for that particular runner, but the 7 Bourbon City is dropping back down to the right level, and he actually looks like he might want 7 furlongs.
I think he does too, and that's what I like about him. He had actually been going 2 turns on the turf before they moved him back to the dirt, 2 starts back. He broke his maiden there. Yes, it was at a lower level, but he did win by open lengths, won by 6 that day, so he really kind of outclassed the field in there. Then they thought highly enough of him to kind of step him up after that, and they tried the 12-5 non-winners of 2. Now he gets some class relief in here. I just think that he might be coming in strongest after those last 2 races.
And I can remember kind of seeing him all along, just thinking that he is probably better as a 1-turn horse. His 2-turn races on the turf, he kind of showed a little bit of speed and faded. So 7 furlongs or even the 1-turn mile here might just be the perfect distance for a horse like this. But the 6 into the future, he's potentially a speed play, and there's no doubt that he can go the distance. But his last win, he did go wire to wire going the flat mile, but in pretty slow fractions.
It was. He got away with some easy fractions, but he does cut back slightly in distance from the mile to the 7 furlongs. And we'll show a stat on trainer Nicholas Gonzalez in the past 5 years, going from route to sprint in low level, claiming on the dirt. Again, not the biggest sample size, but he's 27% win, 47% in the money, slightly positive ROI of 208. Now going from the 1-turn mile to the 7 furlongs, for some horses it can make a world of difference. For some it is kind of very similar, but he does have that early speed, which I do think is definitely a good weapon for him.
He definitely does that. I actually used a little bit of a price in here, and that is the 5 After Cheyenne for trainer Nick Zito. Did go 7 furlongs last time out, but I like some of the adjustments that have been made. First and foremost, getting the weight off, which I think is always important in these low-level claimers. So gets 7-pound apprentice CJ Hernandez here, gets the blinkers on to probably help him be a little bit closer to the pace. And I just think it's a good combination of blinkers on, weight off, get him closer, get him in the game, because he really wasn't making up a lot of ground last time out.
He wasn't. I do think that he needs to be closer. That's going to be key for him. You alluded earlier to the 2 Dero D. I think that this is a horse you have to proceed kind of with a bit of caution. Goes back to the dirt now. I agree. I think maybe even wants a little bit shorter. This is a horse I don't know if I would take on top at a short price.
All right, that's race 7 as we turn the page to the 8th race on the card. Open 12,500 claiming event. We're going 6 furlongs onto the main track, and we do have 2 scratches of the 5 Harambe and the 8 Chocolate Bourbon. So I did land on this number 7 Rora Ima Dose. I'll get to her in just a moment, but Acacia, you land on a horse that does have a lot of natural speed, and that's the 3 Dazzling Dixie.
And I had kind of thought all along that she just might be faster than some of the other speed horses in here, but now we do have the scratch of Chocolate Bourbon and Harambe, both of whom promise to show a bit more speed. So I think it might even actually set up even a bit better now for Dazzling Dixie to go out to the front. We do see speed from Sassy Sierra. I just don't know if she's quite as fast or if she's even a need the lead type, which I do think Dazzling Dixie is much more effective when she's on the front end. She's also shown that she can be effective with other speed types because she beat the likes of Chocolate Bourbon last time. So hoping that she will get 2 in a row, second time with the blinkers as well.
It'll definitely help her, and you have to respect her, especially with those 2 scratches, because I thought that that was very, very key. She very well could be the fastest horse. Sometimes she can be a little inconsistent, but she has been in very good form for the past 2 starts for Saffie Joseph Jr. and drawing away stable. The 7 Rora Ima Dose was one that I liked because I thought it was a good performance, facing winners for the first time last time out after her maiden victory. And if you go back, we saw Dazzling Dixie. Of course, she was forwardly placed throughout. Whereas Aurora Ima Dose, she kind of drew an outside post position, and she was wide the entire step of the way. I know you can see 6-7 wide late, and that was the case, but she was wide on the backstretch going into the turn too.
She was. I think that she lost a lot of ground that way, and I think that she still was able to make up some ground, which is nice to see. I was a little bit intrigued by the other Antonio Sano coming off of a maiden win, the number 6 Faina, and this is just a trend I've kind of noticed from the barn. Sometimes, especially at these lower levels, he has some horses that maybe take a while to break their maiden, but when they do, they tend to stay in pretty good form.
Like Adagio.
Like Adagio. He took a while to
I
break
love
his
using
maiden.
him as an example, but he's actually been in very good form facing winners now. But so that's a look at the 8th race on the card. We'll move along to the 9th, the 16,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime claiming event. We're going 5 furlongs onto the turf, and I think we have a video spotlight replay of the number 4, Bistro Moncour. This was last time out when she did finish 3rd, but as you can see, placed 2nd via disqualification, and there was just a lot going on in the stretch. Acacia, I think you actually showed this replay last week in regards to Pira, but we can see Bistro Moncour kind of down on the inside, and she was really saving a tremendous amount of ground, and then here it doesn't really know, should I go inside or outside? There's a little bit of hesitation as kind of the pace is unfolding in front, and I thought an okay performance, probably one to respect, as we can see her being pretty game down on the inside.
It was. It probably cut off her momentum a little bit with a little bit of that hesitation. They definitely made the right decision, Joel Rosario, in taking her inside versus going outside, because we saw Scandals keep coming, drifting out and forcing those outside horses to go even wider. The winner, Pira, came back and was 3rd in her next race. So I do think you have to respect Bistro Moncour for that. I agree with you. I think it was an okay performance. I don't love her on top in this spot, but I do respect her.
And she will be the likely favorite in here, whereas the 7 Flashy Val, she'll probably be second choice. She'll probably be bet. But I like the fact that she has speed. She's got an outside post position. She did go wire to wire last time out.
She did, and she finally got that maiden win after 3 races in the money, kind of knocking on the door. But maiden winners last time out, looking at turf sprints for the barn, not the most productive move, but I do think this is a horse that's been in solid form. Not considering that last race where she did win, she was a bit of a money burner prior to that, so I'm not going to single her, but I do think that she could light it up in here. I am a bit interested in the number 6 Atlantic Gusto. Her best buyer speed figure was actually on the turf, her only turf race, and there is a bit of turf pedigree as well, so maybe at a bit of a price.
I like her as well. I used her in 3rd. Flashy Val, though, the more I look at her, she really does kind of look like the lone speed. I don't know if anybody's fast enough to go with her, which is always very important at this distance on the turf. Atlantic Gusto with Milt Wolfson, with 5 furlong turf sprinters here, only 16% in a negative ROI. So that's why I kind of put her back there. But I like her if you are playing those multi-race bets as we get to the 10th, the first half of the late daily double, this $30,000 conditional claimer. We're going a mile on the turf, and we'll go back and show you a spotlight replay of the 1 Riviere de Lou. And this is just coming down the stretch, because you can see in the short comment it says traffic stretch. Well, he's actually kind of on the outside. I didn't really he did have a little bit of trouble coming down the stretch, Acacia, but I don't know if he was going to win this race regardless. You can see him down on the inside.
I don't think that he was making a winning move. We have talked about this many times, that Keystone for Victory and that Claiming Crown Emerald just had the perfect trip. He came back and backed that performance up, getting a 93 buyer speed figure in his next subsequent win. But I thought Riviere de Lou, he was kind of boxed in. It was a cavalry charge in that race, but it didn't look like he had quite the momentum of some of the other horses closing in there.
And I think the most important thing is that he's coming back down to reality. I mean, he's been facing Grade 1 Company and the Grade 1 United Nations, 2 other than Allowance Company, and even Stakes Company and the Emerald last time out, whereas they got their money's worth with this horse. They claimed him for $25,000, and I think this is just the realistic move here in getting him a little bit of a class relief.
Maybe he does just have the back class, but we will show a bit of a cautionary stat. Jason Service in the past 5 years on the turf, 61 to 180 day layoff. Looking at route races in the mid-level claiming, he has just 2 for 22. It's a specific stat, and that's kind of what I was looking at. 55% of the money, and it is a negative ROI of just 75 cents. He's had some gaps in his form as well, some breaks in each of his last few races. And as you mentioned, going from Grade 1 company into this field, I'm proceeding with a little bit of caution.
That's a great stat there. We always like to see negative stats as we talk about maybe some other potential upsetters in here, Acacia. I did land on the 7-second mate, who I'll get to in a moment, but the number 9, Bombaguea for Ralph Nix. This horse actually looks like he might be rounding back into the form at the ripe old age of 9.
The ripe old age of 9. And this was a horse I was really intrigued by last time out. We did see the winner, My Point Exactly, last time come back and win again, but I thought that Bombaguea was chasing the top 2 early and just held on really well for that 3rd place finish last time. Also was a bit more forwardly placed then off of that layoff, and it was a year layoff from January of 2016 to January 2017, and came back in really tough 62,000 allowance optional claiming company, dropped back in for the tag last time, and they went fast up front when he was chasing. So I like him now 3rd off the layoff.
He's, you know, my comment on this horse, he's just a big horse. He's a big boy, and I think the more races under his belt, he'll probably get back to his back class. I thought that was actually a really live long shot. The 7-second mate, though, was who I opted for. I know he comes off of a subpar performance last time out, and we haven't seen him since, but I do think he's got some sneaky back class in here that could resurface. And Jane Sabelli, actually, with horses going a distance of ground on the turf with these types of layoffs, talking about 61 to 180 days, excuse me, she's 27%, a positive ROI of $2.56, and we're talking about 45 horses, so a decent sample size. And you look at the class that I'm alluding to. 2 starts back, he did face 2 other than Allowance Company, and he was beaten by Irish Straight, who's grade 3 place and had a career best of 101 by her speed figure. So I'm not saying that this is the same horse that he probably was as a 3-year-old, but he could be on the right level here today.
He's got a little bit of speed to him too. He hasn't won since July of 2016 at Parks, but he does have that back class that you were mentioning, and if he comes off sharp off the layoff, as his work tab might indicate, that could be strong for him, and you might get him at a bit of a better price. Have to mention the 5 Bingo Kitten, who did win last time after a couple of races where it looked like he just didn't want to win, which was a little bit of my questions with him, but he steps up a little bit in class off that win, but it is Mike Maker and Jose Ortiz.
I think we were kind of knocking him all the way to the winner's circle that day. Yes. I can't remember if it was you or whoever it was, but I know we were like, yeah, picking against him, 50 cents to the dollar, no way, and he wins by 11.
Of course.
But that is actually kind of a crazy race, too. He won by 11. He got his career best of a 88 Beyer speed figure, and of course, the bounce factor always has to come into play with Bingo Kitten. But as you said, it was hard for him to get the victory prior to that too. So you and I both taking a wait and see. We get to the 11th and final race on the card. This is a maiden $20,000 event. We go 5 furlongs onto the turf, scratch the number 3 in here, and we both land on the outside. I'm hoping Jane Sabelli's having a good day today.
Yes, that would be good. And she's my single earlier on in the card too, so let's hope that she does. But the 7 Synchronizing, she cut back in distance last time out to the 5 furlongs on the turf, and I was kind of looking at some other alternatives in this race and just not really liking anything, and I believe that she actually is a bit of a price on the morning line as well. This one actually 8-1 morning line, so maybe you will get a bit of a price, but I thought it was a decent performance last time out. She did have some trouble having to steady at the 3/8 pole.
Well, yes, and watching that replay, she steadied at the 3/8 pole, and she actually steadied to last, and that's never something you want to do at any part of the race going 5 furlongs, because it takes you a while to recover, and that's what we saw from her. She had that trouble at the 3/8 pole. She steadied, she back to last, and then she never had the time to recover. She just maintained an even pace. But I'm just hoping she can maybe sit the trip in here and get a little bit closer. Now, the 6 Very Humorous is one who is 5-2 on the morning line for Dave Casson, dropping from maiden special weight company to the maiden $20,000 level here today. However, a little bit of a cautionary stat, I didn't show this, but on the turf dropping from maiden special weight to maiden claiming company, 0 for 9.
I saw the same stat. I was going to mention that as well. 5 for 9 in the money for the barn, and it's a big drop. And it wasn't a complete bust, that debut race at maiden special weight, but they go all the way from special weight down to the maiden 20. So proceeding, again, a bit of caution with that one. I did throw in the 5 Southern and Sassy, who's certainly a long-time maiden, but has hit the board. I like her much better at 1 turn.
All right, well, yeah, that's kind of a tricky race to cap things off. I believe in the pick 6, I just used my top 2 selections. I'm hoping we can get synchronizing home. I do think she's coming into the race with good form. Hoping that Jane Sabelli has a good day. I think we might have picked her 3 or 4 times today.
I think we did, so hopefully Jane's listening.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe she hates us now because we picked her so many times.
Hopefully we didn't jinx her.
All right, well, that is races 6 through 11. Once again, the Rainbow 6 does kick off in the 6th race today. We've got a $1.35 million carryover as well. Thank you for joining us here on Gulfstream today. We're going to step aside, and Peter Ello will be up next with those scratches and changes. Good luck.
We have to take care of these horses that, give us so much joy.
Being accredited by the TAA gives us instant credibility.
People trust us even more than they have before because they know that the TAA has been to all of our locations and that our horses are well cared for.
I mean, this farm wouldn't look the way it is, these horses wouldn't look the way they are if it wasn't for the generosity and the hard work of Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance.
They've united our whole industry in terms of the aftercare movement.
We're all working together for the same purpose.
Discover a unique sanctuary at the Crowne Plaza, Hollywood Beach, a tropical resort offering contemporary comforts, oversized rooms, and a spacious pool. See you at the Crowne Plaza, Hollywood Beach.